delays on the approach. Also, for those who need to make a journey, the A13 is closed westbound at the Five Bells interchange and there are delays back to Pitsea. Also, problems continue on the A2 at the Danson interchange. It's all down to those roadworks and problems on the trains. London Overground services can't run between Romford and Upminster, and on the Underground there are minor delays on the District and Hammersmith and City lines.
This is LBC.
Jen's new smart
Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973. LBC. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
10 minutes before 8, let's come back to our conversation then about these quarantine hotels and give us more details. Conservative MP and Foreign Office Minister James Cleverly. It is reported then that you and your colleagues are looking for 28,000 rooms. You need gestures of interest by 5 p.m. today. When did you put out the request to the hotel chains? Good morning.
Nick, good morning. Well, the formal announcement came out very first thing this morning, just overnight. But as you know, the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister have announced that we'll be moving in this direction, that we'll be taking this action.
Yeah. When did the government request hotel chains to express interest if they wanted to supply rooms?
So the formal request went out overnight.
Right. I've been speaking to the chief executive of London Hotel Group. He told me that he was asked mid-afternoon yesterday. Obviously, he's expected to say whether he can do it or not by 5 p.m. You need 28,000 rooms, and I understand currently the tally stands at 0. Why so slow? Why weren't you asking a week ago if companies were interested in this?
Well, as I said, the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister were speaking about this, said that we will be doing this at the back end of January. Hotels know if they're next to an airport. And so,
Minister, the point I'm making is we've known about this possibility for around 2 weeks, these quarantine hotels. Indeed, I was speaking to some of your colleagues last week.
Yeah.
Why, in the very early stages, was some kind of email or letter not sent out saying expressions of interest if we take this step? Why wait until the afternoon before the 5 p.m. deadline today? And is it right currently we have 0 rooms out of the 28,000?
Well, as I was saying, hotels know if they're near an airport.
I think we've worked that out.
Yes, and the point is that we said last week that this is something that we were bringing in. The detailed requirements have been worked on in the intervening days so that we know exactly what we need to ask.
You have 0 rooms currently, don't you, Minister?
Well, as I say, the formal request
I'll take that as a yes. And could one of the reasons why you have 0 rooms, Minister, could one of the reasons be why you have 0 rooms, because this should have been done a week ago, an expression of interest. The letter saying, should the United Kingdom government move to this, would you be minded to make hotel rooms available? Why didn't it happen a week ago, Minister?
Because we've been working to make sure that we know what we need to ask of the hotels. But as I say, the idea that this has come as a surprise to the hotel industry in concept, I think, is an unfair accusation.
You haven't asked them since yesterday afternoon.
We told the wholesale industry that we were bringing this in.
You're a military man. Would you run an army like this? You wouldn't, would you?
Well, so what we did is we put out what...
You wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't tell the lads and girls we're invading... By the way, we're invading tomorrow at 5. You give them a bit of prep, wouldn't you, Minister?
So, Nick, I tell you exactly what the military would do, which is exactly what we've done, which is set out what we call a warning order to say this is coming, more details to follow, which is exactly what we've done. The more details have come out, as I say, overnight. We're asking at this stage just for expressions of interest. That doesn't take very long to turn on, particularly, as I say, if you're a hotel and you're next to a major airport, you've got a pretty good idea that you're the kind of hotel we're...
How confident are you we'll get those 28,000 rooms?
I am confident. I studied the hotel industry as part of my degree. And I tell you, if there's an industry which is flexible, adaptable and agile, it's the hospitality industry. So I'm confident that they'll rise to this, particularly as we're now giving them a couple of weeks to work on the detailed implementation on this, having given them already, as I say, a warning order at the back end of January.
All right. As we all want the quarantine idea to work, what precautions are being made to ensure passengers don't route via, for instance, South Africa via Doha, on Brazil via Madrid? How will we ensure that doesn't happen?
Well, we're insisting that people take a pre-departure test. So the location that test takes place gives us a strong indication of where their original point of destination. The travel industry and the places that you mentioned, we've been working closely with them since the start of this pandemic and liaising closely with them. So there's a really good international cooperation because none of us want anyone gaming the system. But like many things, there is a degree of personal responsibility. And what we're saying is if you're in one of those high-risk countries, you really should not be traveling at all. If you have a legitimate reason to travel, and there are only a very small number of reasons why you should be traveling, you must get a pre-departure test, and you must self-isolate when you get here. And what we're now going to be putting in place is that isolation happening in one of these hotels.
Hand on heart, then, you don't think it could have been brought in any quicker?
Well, there's always a balance between doing it fast and getting it right. And what we wanted to do is make sure that the logistics around this, including how people move from the airports, through the airports, to the hotels, how the hotels work, we wanted to make sure we get this right. And we have been speaking with international partners that are doing something similar. We will continue to do that. We want to give the hotel industry the notice that, as you say, they need and want to get this right. And that does take a bit of time, but we have moved quickly on bringing a suite of measures in place, and this enhances the suite of measures that we've already got.
Just thinking the very challenging job that our border force officials have to do. Now that Britain has come out of the European Union, if someone routes through Schiphol or Frankfurt or Paris, do they get their passport stamped now?
That I genuinely don't know. I mean, it's often the case.
You are a Foreign Office Minister, Mr. Cleverly.
I know. Well, but I've travelled to places outside the EU. Some stamp the passport, some don't.
No, but I'm asking. I'm trying to help our border force men and women, because if you have to stamp the passport at Schiphol, then obviously that's going to help the man or woman. And I was hoping that you, as a Foreign Office Minister, might know about stamping of passports, but it seems not. Is that the case?
Well, the point is the exit stamps from airports are a decision for those individual countries rather than from the UK.
Okay, let's talk about the success of the quarantine, which is almost a world leader and is tremendous testament to the men and women who are out there doing it every day. Your colleague Matt Hancock and your colleague Nadim Zahawi have told me we will hit this 15 million by February the 22nd. How confident are you, Minister?
Well, I have to say, Nadim and Matt and the whole team around this are constantly amazing, in a positive way, all of us, by how far and how fast this vaccination programme is being rolled out. We're already at 10.5 million. You know, I do feel very confident that we're going to maintain this world-class, world-leading vaccination programme.
OK, just a last couple of points, if we can. The Prime Minister would appear to be indicating that along with schools, as carefully as we can, we're going to start to get the country back on track. Meanwhile, Jeremy Hunt, again another of your senior colleagues, has said that really he doesn't think the easing should come until we're down to the cases of around 1,000 a day. You'll know new infections yesterday were at 20,634. Who's right?
Well, we will base our decisions on the advice that we get from SAGE. I've got a huge amount of respect for my parliamentary colleagues, and ideas are always welcome. But ultimately, we will unlock as it is safe to do so. We need to protect life. We do need to protect livelihoods, and we will always work to do both. But we have to make sure that the measures that we're taking, the restrictions, the vaccination programme, has taken effect before we unlock. We all desperately want to get back to life as normal, but we can only do when it's safe to.
And lastly, I know you're a bloke who enjoys his sport. You were rightly outspoken about what went on at Millwall a couple of weeks ago. You might not yet have had sight of the fact that Premier League clubs have been left, according to one newspaper, aghast. They have reported instances where their players have had foul racist abuse accompanied by monkey emojis, such as "you're an effing monkey." And now they've been told that this does not violate their rules, and that the Twitter has said that these emojis can stay in place, which many Premier League clubs who have a number of black players think is totally wrong. A view on that, if you would, Minister?
I'm not as high profile as black football players, but I get my share of abuse, and so I know how frustrating and hurtful it is. I think sometimes some of these big tech firms have a bit of a tin ear when it comes to these kind of things. Ultimately, they're private organisations and they have to make their own decisions. But I would suggest they think very, very, very carefully about what they imply is acceptable behaviour. So, you know, I if I were in their shoes, I think I'd want to review that policy and do so pretty quickly.
Well said, Minister. Thank you for your time. James Cleverly appearing here on LBC, where it's 8 o'clock and it's news on LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, ministers have confirmed quarantine hotels will be used from the 15th of February, nearly 3 weeks after the policy was first announced. Travellers returning to the UK from around 30 high-risk countries will have to stay in approved accommodation for 10 days and pick up the bill. It's aimed at